Among those of us who regularly speak on Sunday mornings, this is considered one of the roughest Sundays of the year. It lives up there with the Sunday at the end of November when absolutely nobody comes, and other similar days where attendance is spotty, but it's harder. It's harder because nobody has big feelings. Well, somebody probably does, but culturally, we don't have big feelings about the last Sunday in November. But culturally and personally, boy, do we have some feelings about mothers and mothering. It's a challenge in a way that Father's Day isn't, for reasons I've been struggling to put my finger on. I think because Mother's Day started as something not just commercial. Mother's Day started as this acknowledgement of and care for undervalued feminized labor. Mother's Day started as women standing up and saying, "When you go to war, you are killing my children." And that is a different kind of day than the fully corporate hallmark holiday that is Father's Day. Mother's Day is hard. And every single person needs a different message on Mother's Day. And that is the primary reason why it is hard to be me or someone like me today. Because what do you say that covers that broad range of experiences? That is everything from the mother and child who are best friends to the person who never knew their mother, to the person who faced terrible abuse at the hands of a mother, for the person who desperately wanted to be a mother and couldn't be, or who was but didn't have a good experience of it, and all of the messy in-between things that are mothering. It is one of the days when the actual complication of this thing that I do on Sunday becomes really readily apparent. Because as it turns out, you actually all have different needs every Sunday. It gets magnified by the intensity of our relationships to mothering, but everybody actually needs a slightly different message every single week. And I have only the one mouth. And though I bring in other people's mouths and we use your mouths too, I can only say so many things at any one time. When I took a preaching course in seminary, one of the things that my professor, the Reverend Dr. Sophia Benacor, who is now president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, taught me was that you have to remember everybody who might be hearing what you're saying when you are preparing what you're going to say. That is a lot of people to think about. Everybody who might be hearing it, right? Not enough to just think about who you know will be in the room, but the people you don't necessarily expect, who show up on a Sunday morning and you're like, oh, okay, I don't know anything about you, and you're here and I need to say something that might mean something to you, something that might care for you. Not to mention the addition of all this camera stuff, right? People I can't see who are currently watching on Zoom, people I won't ever see who might watch on YouTube or later. It is complicated to figure out what we can say that will work for not necessarily everybody. Nothing works for everybody. That's one of my big points today. Nothing actually works for each and every person. There is no message Even "you are good and cared for" is not actually the message every single person needs. But you try. I try. I get up here and I strive to say things that will mean something to at least many of you. I try to say enough different things that depending on where you are, you will catch different things. I notice when you talk to me after platform that you all hear different things. Love that. So I want to talk about mothering for a little bit, and then I want to turn a little more into this everybody needs different things piece. Mothering is hard. I don't do a lot of mothering in my own life, except for perhaps to cats. And if I'm being honest, I think I'm the cat's dad. They call me mom. However, let's not get too far into that. The family I come from, which, sidebar, you'll get to meet a little bit of next week. My parents will be joining us for Founders Day next Sunday. The family I come from, my mother's family in particular, is matriarchal. So much so that I was surprised to find out that there were families in which men were actually in charge of something other than the yard. I was also deeply surprised when I was in college to learn that neither my mother nor my grandmother identified as a feminist, because I could not click together women who were in charge of their family. And let me be clear, my grandmother was in charge of our family. Like my cousins and I, and there are 31 of us, used to appeal our parents' decisions to the Supreme Court of Grandma. And it worked. My grandmother got my ears pierced 2 years before I was supposed to be allowed to get my ears pierced. She also brushed my teeth with Comet against my parents' wishes. Real mixed blessing, that situation. In my family, women and mothers were respected and venerated. We still celebrate a holiday that is actually just my grandmother's birthday. July 27th, every year, my family gets together and we have some kind of camp out. We used to celebrate it as everybody's birthday. It was Grandma's birthday, so it was everybody's birthday. We all came from there. But relationships with parents are hard. Even really good parents, even really good mothers will make mistakes. Mistakes they know about and mistakes they don't know about, and have moments where they miss connection. And that's not to mention all the mothers who are not that good at it, whose own personal life gets in the way of their ability to think about their children as people that they should be connecting with. Women, and I'm gonna say women here because most mothers are women, women who maybe didn't wanna do it at all, but lived in a time where there was no other thing to do, who became mothers despite severe mental health situations of their own that got no or little treatment, who became mothers out of circumstances that nobody would wish to live in, and then reenacted that pain on their children. Everybody has a mother somewhere. Not everybody has one in their life, or one who behaves like you think a mother should. That should stuff gets big for mothers in particular. Women in general, mothers in particular, get this should really, really hard. I remember telling my mom once that I didn't want to be a mother because I was pretty sure I couldn't sew anybody's school play costume. Yeah. And to me, that was like, that's what you're supposed to do. And my mom looked at me and she was like, you know that your Aunt Candy made all of yours, right? Okay. I have fewer siblings than my mother did, but okay. there is this high level of expectation on mothering. It's a little different now, but the historical sort of mid-20th century housewife mother thing sort of looms, right? You should have a healthy dinner ready for your children all the time, and who cares about how little those children want to eat a vegetable? Figure it out. And your children should be well-behaved but thoughtful and independent. What? Often those things are at a crossroads, especially when children are small and figuring out what on earth they're doing, and then again, when they're slightly larger and figuring out what they're doing. It is a complicated relationship and a wild thing to do with your body when you become a mother by giving birth. Let's take a moment for that, because good Lord, pregnancy is a nightmare. I say that as a person who is terrified of it. I am sure some people enjoy it. The multiplicity of existence. But what I want to say is that when a person is pregnant, their bones move. Their organs move. Their body stops being their own in a very literal way, right? That growing baby in their body changes the things they like, the way their hair grows, their ability to sleep, right? It's a whole range of types of pillows specifically for people who are pregnant, because your body becomes different. People's feet change size while they are pregnant and then never go back to the size they were before. Unreal. I am grateful, in awe of, thankful to everyone who does that on purpose, who does that because they wanted to. I am bewildered in a enamored sort of way of anybody who enjoys that process. I know people do. If you have given birth to a child, please, I don't know, hug yourself for me later. Ask me for a hug later, whatever. Because you have done something ridiculous and miraculous and unbelievable. And then those people who you grew in your body are just walking around on the planet, having their own thoughts and feelings. And many of you who I know as mothers are really respecting that they are other people, that they are not simply an outgrowth of you who gets to live whatever you wanted. They are not a carbon copy of you or their other parent. They are not there to fulfill your dreams. You are actually acknowledging them as full other people. Goodness. Can we just applaud for the mothers and the birth parents? Yeah. That is an intense physical reality, an intense emotional reality that nobody should ever have to do unless they want to. And then there are people who become mothers other ways. They don't gestate that child themselves, but they take them into their homes and love them and care for them and nurture them into the fullness of a person, ideally. Sometimes even the ones who pick it don't do a very good job. Here we are, stuck in reality where some people suck. But to take on that labor is a big act. To say, I am going to commit myself to nurturing other people is a big, intense thing to take on. And oh, as it happens, I did take that one on. Because here I am. I am not your mother. In zero ways am I anybody but maybe a cat's mother. Let's be clear on that. But nurturing I do. I had a therapist once who asked me in quick succession 2 questions. One was, Casey, do you think you might be gay? Yes. And the second one was, do you realize that you're a very nurturing person? I'm a what now? I don't really think about myself that way. Okay, I do now, but I did not on the other end of seminary or well before my religious life think of myself as a nurturing person. I don't really pull my punches, tend to be pretty direct. I can be a little bit aggressive. My gender does not sit nicely inside womanhood. I don't want to give birth. I don't want to raise children. But I love other people's children. And I love other people's children whether they are 2 or 95. I love other people's children across their life stages, when they are my sex ed students, when they are the children of my congregants, when they are my congregants. Everybody is somebody's child. Everybody somewhere has a mother, and everybody, mother or not, has the opportunity to nurture other people. When we are attempting to elicit the best, the uniqueness, the favorite self in each other, part of what we are doing is nurturing. Part of what we are doing is giving fertilizer. I'm going to go back to the garden metaphor because I like that one better. We're giving fertilizer and water and sunshine to the people that we can be. A really good mother does that too. Actually, even a lot of really mediocre mothers manage to do that. You just have to pay attention a little bit. Listen. Listen with the part of you that is you rather than your judgmental responses. The other thing that a community does, though, is nurture people who are in a bunch of different places in their lives. In this room, we have everything from teenagers to grandparents, right? In this building, everything from smaller children to, again, grandparents, great-grandparents. I think, are any of you great-grandparents? No? Okay. Only grandparents. Cool. We'll get there. It's fine. In a community like ours, one of the challenges is that not only are we at different life stages, but we're thinking and feeling differently, right? A Christian congregation has this easy thing where they have one book that they're reading. They're all reading one book. It's like a millennia-long book club that they're all in. We have a lot of books. And our books are not even necessarily in the same part of the library, right? I have some friends who, if I go to a bookstore with them, we can all wander off in different directions and know exactly where to find each other after we're done. You will find me in religion and sociology. Oh, shock. Who would guess? You can find my partner who lives in Seattle, Melly, squarely in Judaica these days, but historically in the sci-fi section. You can find my friend Jacob wherever the weirdest books they have are. If they've got a section of old books that nobody has heard of in decades, that's where Jacob is. Part of being in a community like this is learning how to figure out what is your book and what is someone else's, and where to find your people when it's time to leave the library. Everybody needs different things. Let me give you a more particular example. Sometimes we will pick songs, and they will have lyrics that do not apply to everybody. Next month, our song of the month includes the lines, "Kiss a lot of boys or girls if that's what you're into." And that'll sound different in women's voices than in men's, than in non-binary people's. That's a different statement, depending on who you are. And maybe you're not into any of that. Maybe that's not your jam. Some people won't feel comfortable with those lyrics, and that's okay. Our Song of the Month this month contains some lyrics that I'm pretty sure not everybody is going to like. You heard it once already, so maybe you already don't like it. I don't know. There's a line about falling to your knees that I hear as getting knocked over, but you might hear as about prayer. The word God is in there. We're not big fans of that word. But somebody needs to hear those things. Maybe it's not you. Maybe that thing isn't for you. Maybe that's not your section of the bookstore or the library. And maybe it wouldn't be in your own personal library, but that's okay. Because this is our library, our bookstore. And somebody coming in here might need to hear that sometimes the world is going to make them want to fall to their knees, and either they've gotten knocked over or they want to pray, and that's actually okay. And we're not going to spend too much time on the word God. Like, this is more than I've said it in, months. But some people here believe in a thing that they call God. And that's okay. That's not what we do together, but it's okay for it to be a piece for us individually. And what's important there is to sort between what's uncomfortable and what's unsafe, right? It is really hard to discern sometimes what's uncomfortable and what's unsafe. People with trauma histories, people who are traumatized by, for example, their mothers, might find any discussion of motherhood pretty triggering. That's okay. And if that's you, and you're here, and something gets too intense, please leave. You're allowed. And if you're watching, and the discussion of motherhood is too much, pause it, walk away, take care of yourself. If when you hear the word God in a song that feels like too much for you that day, that is okay. Put your hands over your head for all I care. And I don't mean that dismissively, I mean take care of yourself. And remember that this is a conversation and you are safer in it. I will not say safe completely because I can't promise that, but you are safer here to have that conversation. Okay, Casey, but you would never allow someone to publicly misgender someone or say something racist. Isn't that the same? It's still something you don't like to hear. No, it is not the same. The existence of the word God in a song is not a threat. It may not feel good, it may not resonate, but you are not in this space in any danger of being attacked by theists. Right? That's not out there, sure. In here, But people of color, queer and trans people, still in danger here. I wish that wasn't true. I wish that we could say, oh, we can just have a conversation and it's okay. But it's not. So we need to thread the difference really carefully between when we're uncomfortable and when we're unsafe. Because if we want to be in a community that is diverse, if we want to honor everybody from our littlest littles to our oldest elders, we're going to need a lot of space to move around. And we're going to need to be able to hear people talk in ways that don't match how we would talk, but that are not denigrating to anybody's humanity. The thing we agree on most is that everybody is a person. Straight up. Me, you, the kids, all of us, people. We don't use language that denigrates each other's identity, but we might use language that is different, right? I'm going to give you an example that may or may not make sense, but bear with me. I myself use a variety of different language about me. You will learn, potentially, if you speak to my parents next week, that my parents do not use the correct pronouns for me. My parents call me and Caitlin she and her, the girls, they call us. Sometimes when I have facial hair, I'm like, the girl in question. That is my decision about my relationship with my parents. It is different than my relationship with you, right? When I talk about myself with you, I will often say that I am non-binary, that I am genderqueer, that I am somewhere in between. When I talk to people who I might be interested in dating, I often call myself transmasculine, though that is not a perfect fit for how I feel, but it kind of describes where I'm at right now. If I tell you the truest true thing about my gender, it is that my gender is either I don't understand the question and I refuse to answer, or what are you, a cop? I use different language in different contexts because different things will make more sense in different places. If you were to hear me talk with theists about what we do together, I might say that we do not share a belief in God, but what we find holy is. But I don't say holy a lot here, even though the word is right above my head, because we feel a little strange about that word. I will, in public and with my UU colleagues, call what I do here ministry. And with you, I often stumble around trying to find words for what it is. Right? So we can shift our language around, but we can also be comfortable with other people's articulations of what we're doing. I have UU colleagues in particular who really hate it when their congregants call what they do on Sunday morning talking, because they think of it as preaching, and I think that those are the same thing. And so it does not matter much to me which words you use. Sometimes visitors come in and they say, I liked your sermon? Yeah, that's fine with me. Nobody else here calls it that, but yeah, platform. We call it a platform. Some things are interchangeable. If I'm talking with people who are strictly theists, I can talk about a thing I believe in that I can call God, because I'm comfortable with that. I'm not asking you to do that. Do not put any words in your own personal mouth that feel wrong there, right? I like my title. I like Reverend. I don't like to be called it. I like it on paper. You will notice that it is often written down that way. We don't all agree on that. I am very clear. But I like it. It's what I call myself. But I will never make you put that word in your mouth. There is a joke about Unitarian Universalists and singing, and it's that we sing really slowly because we're waiting to see if we agree with the next line. Once, one of my best colleague friends, Reverend Dr. Gregory Caro Boyd, who is now the minister of the UU Church of Honolulu, he and I lived in Los Angeles together, and we used to love to go to Easter services that were a type of high church that neither of us lives in at all. We would go to this Episcopalian church for one and a Methodist church for another, and then you gotta get to some really intensely churchy people to get to an Easter vigil. So you wind up somewhere where people are very involved in the concept of God that I just don't believe in. Even my stretching of language cannot get me there. And so here are Gregory and I in the back of somebody else's sanctuary, saying only part of the call and response, not the same part. We didn't agree on which things fit in we agree on a lot of stuff. So I'm saying several things. One of them is that you're not always going to be comfortable, and that is actually okay. Don't feel the need to bear your discomfort all by yourself, but also don't feel the need to make it everybody's problem, right? If something doesn't sit well with you, please do talk to me about it. I don't promise that it will change, but I promise that I'll listen to you. If something feels uncomfortable and you don't feel like it rises to the level of needing to talk to me, talk to a friend, talk to the officiant, talk to somebody. Because it is worth sharing that. That is useful information, and sharing your discomfort will often alleviate it a little. Learn to differentiate between discomfort and a lack of safety. That is a whole other series of platforms in STEPS. That is platforms and workshops, and we'll get there. But think about it when it comes up in you. Is this uncomfortable or is this unsafe? And if something makes you feel unsafe, absolutely tell me about it. Okay? If I'm not here and somebody is up here or on the screen and they say something that is not safe for this community, interrupt them. If I say something that makes you feel unsafe, interrupt me. But know that safety is the question and not discomfort before you do that. Everybody here needs different things, and everybody's job is to nurture each other. Sometimes the job of nurturing is helping us stretch out a little bit, helping us get safely uncomfortable, right? You think about the work that a mother does throughout the course of a child's life, right? First, everything is about, let's make this baby's world like literally as small as possible, right? Wrap them up so they don't move too much when they sleep. Make sure that the crib is empty. Because a baby has no defense systems. But when they get a little bigger and they're learning to walk, you encourage them to try things. And sometimes they fall down on their cute little butts. And that's okay. It's not a far fall. They do all right. And you learn that if you fuss and fuss and fuss every time the baby falls, they cry every time they fall. But if you say, oopsie, I'm sorry you fell, let's try again. They learn that it's okay if it doesn't go right every single time. That it's okay to fall down and make a mistake. That they are safe to mess up. Talk about baby steps like if they're these timid little things. That is not how babies walk. Baby steps are big, clumsy, hopeful things. So while we work to elicit the best in each other, to seek the highest, to make this holy ground, let's take baby steps like babies actually take them. With the belief that we belong here. Most babies believe that they belong here. They're like cats in that way. They have not yet caught up to that the world would tell them otherwise. I hope all of our babies get to keep that belief. I promise you the cats are keeping it. Let's take big steps, believing that we can keep each other safe, that we can find the difference between our discomfort and our safety, that we can be all of the various things that we are, and nurture each other by being different things from each other. That somebody else's language about themselves is not actually a call for you to be the same as them. That your own language about yourself or your community can be a little wobbly and different depending on who you're talking to. In the spirit of what Mother's Day was intended to be, a call for all of us to care, to nurture, to respond to the ridiculous thing that mothers for generations have been voluntarily doing or involuntarily doing, in the service of continuing a species, in the service of raising some children who are better than the worlds they were born into. Let's take some clumsy baby steps. Let's listen, let's learn, let's stretch and grow. Let's let the variety of this plot we are planted in together feed us and make us more beautiful, bigger, brighter, blossoming as individual flowers and as a garden. Happy Mother's Day. Thank you.